I worked the front desk at a hotel in Amsterdam for 6 years. On my third day, an American couple checked in. The woman smiled huge and asked how I was doing. I said fine. She waited. I waited. She looked confused. Is everything okay? She asked. I said yes and gave her the room keys. She looked at her husband like I just insulted her mother. That's when I learned Americans think we're rude. We think they're exhausting. Here's what Americans don't understand about Europe. We don't do the performance. A Dutch cashier who says, "Nay," isn't being mean. A German waiter who tells you the fish is overcooked isn't trying to ruin your night. A French server who doesn't ask how your day was isn't being cold. They're just not lying to you. Americans arrive in Europe expecting everyone to act like a golden retriever. They want enthusiasm. They want, "Oh my gosh, how are you?" They want service workers to pretend they care about strangers' life stories. When they don't get it, they write 1-star reviews and complain to their friends that Europeans hate Americans. We don't hate you. We're just confused why you're performing. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepares Europeans for the sheer confidence of an American who's been proven wrong. They don't quietly accept correction. They don't even get defensive. They escalate. They reframe reality. They double down with the conviction of someone who just invented fact. A British guy in my hostel in Berlin asked me for restaurant recommendations. I gave him 3. He thanked me and left. An American asked me the same question. I gave him the same 3. He said, "Actually, I heard the best place is this spot I saw on Instagram." Then why did you ask me? That's the thing about American confidence. It's not just that they believe they're right. It's that they believe their feeling of being right is more valid than your actual lived experience. And when European directness meets that level of ego, the results are spectacular. One more thing before we get into it. I'm not talking about all Americans, obviously, but if you're an American reading this and getting mad, you might want to ask yourself why. Because the stories I'm about to tell you, they happened multiple times, in multiple countries, to multiple people I know. And they're all real. I was behind the counter at a bike rental shop in Utrecht. American woman, maybe 40, marched up with her phone out. "I need to report a scam," she announced. I asked what happened. She said she'd rented a bike yesterday from a shop near the train station, and when she returned it this morning, they charged her extra. €20, she said, like she was exposing Watergate. They said it was because I returned it late. But I wasn't late. I had it back by 10 a.m. I asked when she was supposed to return it. 10 a.m., she said. So I was on time. I asked when she picked it up. Yesterday at 11 a.m. I nodded. So you had it for 23 hours. She stared at me. What? The rental is for 24 hours, I explained. But if you return it early, you don't get refunded. If you return it late, you pay extra. You were supposed to return it by 11 a.m. today, not 10 a.m. Her face went red. That doesn't make sense. I returned it in the morning. Yes, I said. But not before your rental period ended. She looked at her husband. He shrugged. She looked back at me. In America, if you rent something at 11 a.m., you return it in the morning. That's how it works. I told her that's not how it works here. She said, then how was I supposed to know that? I pointed at the rental agreement she signed. She said she didn't read it because it was in Dutch. I said it was also in English. She said, well, I didn't see that part. Then she asked if I could call the other shop and get her money back. I said no. She asked why not. I said because she returned the bike late. She said, but I didn't know, like that changed the facts. She left a review online. Said Dutch bike shops are predatory and target tourists. Gave them 1 star. My cousin worked at a cafe in Paris. An American family came in, sat down, and stared at the menu for 10 minutes. Finally, the dad waved my cousin over. Do you have a menu in English? My cousin said no. The dad sighed. Okay, well, can you translate it for us? She started explaining the dishes. He interrupted. Wait. What's in the croque monsieur? She said ham and cheese. He said, that's it? She said yes. He said, what kind of cheese? She said Gruyere. He said, is that like cheddar? She said no. He said, what's it like? She said it's Gruyere. He frowned. Can I get cheddar instead? She said they don't have cheddar. He said, you don't have cheddar? In a cafe. She said it's a French cafe. He said, yeah, but everyone has cheddar. His wife jumped in. Do you have grilled cheese? My cousin said no. The wife said, but you have bread and cheese. My cousin said yes. The wife said, so you can make grilled cheese. My cousin said that's not on the menu. The wife said, but you have the ingredients. My cousin explained they don't make custom orders. The dad said, why not? She said because they're busy and the menu is fixed. He said, we're customers. You're supposed to accommodate us. My cousin went to the kitchen and told the chef. The chef said in French, tell them to leave. She went back out and very politely suggested they might prefer a different restaurant. The dad looked shocked. Are you kicking us out? She said no, just recommending. The wife said, this is exactly what people warned us about. They left. The dad muttered, unbelievable, on his way out. The next customers were German. Ordered in French. Ate their food. Left a small tip. Didn't demand cheddar. I bartended in Rome for 3 years. One night, an American couple ordered 2 Aperol spritzes. When I brought them, the woman asked for water. I asked if she wanted sparkling or still. She said, just tap water. I told her we don't serve tap water. She blinked. What do you mean you don't serve it? I said we only serve bottled water. She said, but tap water is free. I said not here. She said, that's illegal. I told her it's not illegal in Italy. She said, in America, restaurants have to give you free water. It's the law. I said this isn't America. She said, yeah, but human rights. Her boyfriend stepped in. Listen, we're not trying to cause problems. We just want water. I said they could buy a bottle. He said, we're not paying for water. I said then they don't get water. She said, this is insane. She pulled out her phone. I'm looking this up. She scrolled for a minute. See? It says here tap water is safe in Rome. I said yes, it's safe. She said, so why can't we have it? I said because we don't serve it. She said, but it's safe. Like I just lost a legal argument. She demanded to speak to the manager. The manager came over. She explained the situation. He said the same thing I did. She said, so you're really going to make us pay for water? He said yes. She said, that's horrible. They paid for the spritzes. Didn't buy water. Left no tip. She made eye contact with me on the way out, shook her head slowly, and said, wow. 2 minutes later, a Dutch couple asked for the wine list. Ordered a bottle. Didn't mention tap water once. I worked at a pharmacy in Munich. An American man bought cold medicine and vitamins. The total was 47 euros. He paid with a 50 euro note. I gave him his change and receipt. He studied the receipt like it was a puzzle. This is wrong, he said. I asked what was wrong. He pointed at a line. What's this? I said it's the tax. He said, that's 19%. I said yes. He said, in America, sales tax is like 6%. This is way too high. I told him that's the tax rate in Germany. He said, that's insane. How do you afford anything? I said we have healthcare and schools. He said, still, 19% is robbery. Then he pointed at another line. What's this charge? I said it's the recycling fee. He said, for what? I said for the packaging. He said, I have to pay to throw away the box? I said you pay to recycle it. He said, I don't want to recycle it. I said you still pay the fee. He looked frustrated. In America, we don't pay extra for trash. I said this isn't trash, it's recycling. He said, same thing. I said it's not. He asked if he could get the charges removed. I said no. He asked why not. I said because they're mandatory. He said, but I didn't agree to them. I showed him the price label. He said, that's not clear. I said it's the law. He paid. On his way out, he turned back. You know, in America, customer service actually means something. I said, have a nice day. He said, I'm serious. You people could learn a lot from us. The next customer was Italian. Bought Band-Aids, paid, left. Didn't deliver a lecture on comparative governance. My friend worked at a restaurant in Copenhagen. American couple finished dinner. The bill came to 850 kroner. The guy looked at it and said, service isn't included? My friend said yes, it's included. He said, where? She pointed at the line. He said, that doesn't say tip. She said in Denmark, service is part of the bill. He said, so you already added the tip? She said it's not a tip, it's the service charge. He said, what's the difference? She explained that Danish servers get paid a living wage, so tips aren't expected. He said, but what if the service was really good? She said you can leave extra if you want, but it's not required. He said, that seems weird. His wife asked how much they should tip. My friend said nothing. The wife said, nothing. My friend said the service is already paid. The wife said, but you were so nice. My friend said that's her job. The guy pulled out his wallet. I'm leaving a tip anyway, he said. Because that's what good people do. He put down 200 kroner. My friend said thank you, but it's not necessary. He said, in America, we take care of people who take care of us. He stood up, looked at the other diners, and said loudly, just so you all know, tipping is how you show respect. My friend wanted to sink into the floor. No one else reacted. He walked out looking proud of himself. The Danish couple at the next table paid their bill. Rounded up by 10 kroner because the food was great. Left quietly. Didn't make a speech. I worked at a gas station outside Brussels. An American pulled up in a rental car, came inside, and asked how much to fill the tank. I said it depends how much fuel he needs. He said, just fill it up. How much is gas? I said €1.85 per liter. He stared at me. Per what? I said per liter. He said, I don't know what that is. I said it's how we measure fuel here. He said, in America we use gallons. I said here we use liters. He said, okay, so how much is that in gallons? I did the math in my head. About €7 per gallon, his jaw dropped. $7? For 1 gallon? I said yes. He said, that's insane. How does anyone drive here? I said they do. He said, no wonder everyone rides bikes. He asked if there was a cheaper station nearby. I said prices are similar everywhere. He said, this has to be illegal. I said it's not. He said, in America, gas is like $3 a gallon, you guys are getting scammed. I told him European fuel is more expensive because of taxes. He said, taxes? On gas? Like I just described a war crime. I said yes. He said, that's theft. I said it pays for roads. He said, we pay for roads too, and we don't get charged $7 a gallon. He filled up the tank. Paid. Walked back to his car shaking his head. Before he drove off, he rolled down the window. You should move to America, he shouted. We have freedom. The next customer was French. Filled up. Paid. Drove off. Didn't propose asylum. A friend worked at a bakery in Vienna. An American woman came in and ordered a sandwich. My friend made it and handed it over. The woman looked at it and said, this bread is stale. My friend said it's not stale, it's a Vienna roll. The woman said, it's hard. My friend said that's how it's supposed to be. The woman said, in America, sandwich bread is soft. My friend said this is Austria. The woman said, so? She demanded a refund. My friend said no refunds for food unless there's an actual problem. The woman said, the bread is hard. That's a problem. My friend said the bread is fine. The woman said, I'm not eating it. She asked for the manager. The manager came out, looked at the sandwich, and said the same thing. The woman said, this is unacceptable. The manager said she could order something else. The woman said, I want my money back. The manager said no. The woman's face turned red. I'm calling the American embassy. My friend and the manager just stared at her. She pulled out her phone. I'm serious. This is fraud. The manager said, call whoever you want. The woman dialed. My friend heard her say hello, I need to report a business in Vienna that's scamming tourists. She was on hold for 2 minutes. Then she hung up. They said to call the police, she muttered. The manager said, good idea. The woman didn't call the police. She left the sandwich on the counter and walked out. 10 minutes later, an Austrian guy ordered the same sandwich, ate it, complimented the bread, paid, left. I worked at a hotel in Frankfurt. An American family checked in on Saturday. On Sunday morning, the dad came to the desk. Where's the nearest grocery store? I said most stores are closed on Sunday. He said, what? I said in Germany, most shops close on Sunday. He said, why? I said it's the law. He said, what if you need something? I said you buy it Saturday. He looked stunned. That's ridiculous. What if there's an emergency? I said there are pharmacies and gas stations. He said, but I need groceries. I said you'll have to wait until Monday. He said, we leave Monday morning. He asked if I could make an exception. I said I don't own a grocery store. He said, can't you call someone? I said no. He said, in America, stores are open every day. I said this is Germany. He demanded to speak to my manager. My manager said the same thing. He said, this is a human rights violation. My manager said no, it's a law to give workers a day off. He said, what about customer rights? He called the front desk later that afternoon. Said he wanted to file a formal complaint. I asked with who. He said, the government. I said okay. He said, how do I do that? I said I don't know. He said, you're not helping. Monday morning, he checked out. Told me Germany was backwards and inconvenient. I said I'm sorry he felt that way. He said, you should be. The next guest was Japanese. Asked about the Sunday closures. I explained. He said, like Japan. That was it. No drama. My roommate worked for the city government in Amsterdam. An American tourist came in holding a parking ticket. This is a mistake, he said. My roommate asked what happened. He said he parked in a spot, went to a museum, came back and found a €90 ticket on his windshield. But I paid for parking, he said. My roommate looked at the ticket. This says you parked in a resident-only zone. He said, how was I supposed to know? She pointed at the sign in the photo. He squinted. That's in Dutch. She said it's also in English. He said, I didn't see that part. She said the sign has a clear symbol. He said, I saw the P and assumed it meant parking. She said it means parking for residents. He asked if she could cancel the fine. She said no. He said, why not? She said because he broke the rule. He said, but I didn't know. She said that doesn't matter. He got louder. In America, if there's a misunderstanding, you get a warning first. She said that's not the policy here. He said, that's not fair. He demanded to speak to someone higher up. She said they'd tell him the same thing. He said, I'm not paying this. She said then it goes to collections and doubles. He said, "You can't do that." She said they can. He pulled out his phone and called someone. Came back an hour later, paid the fine, looked at my roommate and said, "I'm never coming back to this country." She said, "Have a safe flight." Here's the thing about these stories. The Americans in them aren't bad people. They're just people who've lived their entire lives in a system where the customer is always right, where service workers smile no matter what, where loudness and confidence often get results. Then they come to Europe, where none of that works, where a no means no, where asking for the manager doesn't change anything, where your feelings about a rule don't override the actual rule. And they can't handle it, because in America, reality is negotiable. If you're upset enough, confident enough, persistent enough, someone will give in. A manager will comp your meal. A cashier will accept your expired coupon. A hotel will upgrade your room. The system rewards escalation. Europe doesn't reward escalation. Europe rewards following the rules. And when Americans realize they can't bully their way into special treatment, they don't think, "Maybe I should adjust my expectations." They think these people are rude. But we're not rude. We're just not pretending. When a Dutch cashier says, "Nay," she's not being mean. She's being efficient. When a German waiter tells you the truth about your meal, he's not being harsh. He's being honest. When a French server doesn't ask about your day, it's not personal. It's professional. Americans mistake European efficiency for coldness, European honesty for cruelty, European boundaries for rudeness, and European confidence in their own systems for ignorance. The irony is that Americans call us arrogant while demanding we change centuries of culture to accommodate them. They call us rude while interrupting, speaking over us, and dismissing our explanations. They call us backwards while refusing to learn a single word of our language. I've worked in tourism for 8 years. I've met Americans who were curious, humble, and kind, who asked questions and listened to answers, who adapted to where they were instead of demanding everywhere adapt to them. Those people are wonderful. But the others? The ones in these stories? They're exhausting. Not because they're American, but because they can't imagine a world where American exceptionalism doesn't apply. And that's the real culture shock. Not that Europe is different, but that being American doesn't make you special here. One last story. An American woman came to my hotel in Amsterdam, asked for recommendations. I gave her a list. She looked at it and said, "Actually, I think I'll just explore on my own." I said, "That's a great idea." She smiled. "I just want to experience the real Amsterdam, you know? Not the tourist version." I said, "The real Amsterdam is bikes, rain, and people who won't pretend to like you." She laughed. "Perfect," she said. "That's exactly what I want."